Never before have we been so connected, and never before have we felt so alone. Nature never learned to live alone. Perhaps we were never meant to become individuals first. Perhaps we were always meant to become human together.
You are looking at a metallic sphere drifting in a total void. It is a visual representation of how modern society experiences consciousness as a deep, pervasive sensation of isolation. We treat this loneliness as a personal failing, but it is an inherited operating system. It originates from the philosophical baseline drawn by René Descartes, "I think, therefore I am." This specific grammar dictates how we perceive reality. It constructs a worldview where human consciousness operates as a detached, solitary atom, an island looking outward at an entirely empty, objective universe. When 19th century European explorers recorded scenes like this one, they encountered non-Western ontologies. They faced a psychological architecture that did not revolve around a solitary I positioned at the center of the universe. Faced with this structural gap, European minds lacked the linguistic tools to decode what they were observing. They did not accurately translate these deeply interconnected realities. Instead, they colonized them by forcing their own individualistic syntax onto the indigenous vocabulary. This historical overlay creates a rigid boundary where none existed. The result is a linguistic architecture that mandates isolation, treating the human experience as a series of disconnected points rather than a continuous field. You see this overlay most clearly in the famous African philosophy of Ubuntu. Global media universally translates this concept as "I am because we are." It is offered to the modern world as a sentimental cure for our collective isolation. Look closely at the phrase. It contains a contradiction that collapses the philosophy it attempts to explain. By placing the autonomous European pronoun I at the absolute center of the definition, Western translators effectively smuggled the isolated Cartesian ego into a conceptual architecture explicitly designed to dismantle it. Look at this dictionary page. External definitions and rigid columns cannot capture the actual mechanics of the philosophy. To conduct a proper forensic linguistic audit, we have to bypass the dictionary entirely and examine the raw grammatical architecture of the source languages. To understand the mechanism of our isolation, we must discard Indo-European syntax. We have to observe how beingness functions when a sovereign ego is removed from the equation. This kinetic diagram maps Isintu's structural branches. Meaning is generated continuously through a dynamic dance between noun class prefixes and root stems. Anthropology claims the root ntu means human. Structurally, it represents pure beingness. As seen here, the prefix Ubuntu establishes a massive, continuous energy field. When we examine the singular human prefix, umuntu, or moto, we see it behaves strictly as a localized terminal dropping into that continuous field. It retains the properties of the matrix, but it is entirely derived from it. Think of the physical properties of water. Vapor, liquid, and ice operate as the exact same continuous substance, manifesting in different states. The language structures consciousness the same way. In this linguistic framework, the overarching collective field precedes and contains the individual. The single conscious unit is a manifestation of that field, but its entire identity remains subordinate to the whole. This raises a demanding structural challenge. If the sovereign Cartesian I does not exist in this grammar, how does a speaker establish their own presence? Western textbooks routinely mislabel the particle K as the direct translation for the first-person pronoun I. Look at this cartographic model. The syntax reveals K functions as an impersonal copula of presence, illuminating a specific location. The pronoun na behaves exclusively as a position marker. A coordinate cannot exist without the grid. It remains permanently tethered to the collective matrix. Stating "Kamotho" is an objective syntactic declaration. It does not mean "I am an independent ego." It means It is a conscious human unit here manifest. This relational architecture belongs to a vast Afro-Semitic epistemic continuum. We move from southern Africa to these ancient ruins in the Near East. This stone carving displays ancient Hebrew characters. The bedrock of ancient Hebrew cosmology is the concept of echad. Western individualism consistently forces this word to mean a solitary, lonely numerical digit sitting apart from creation. Mapping the semantic range of echad across ancient syntax reveals a different pattern. It denotes a compound unity, a singular system integrated completely from distinct interacting parts. Look at the text flowing across this manuscript fragment. It contains the identical operational mechanisms found in southern Africa. The Hebrew kamoka and the Sotho-Tswana kamoka strictly dictate that any localized action must occur by means of the whole totality. Both systems share an exact operational protocol. They recognize the boundary between self and neighbor as an illusion, confirming that both draw from the exact same systemic field. This data model aligns the two worldviews. When we compare the syntax, the modern Western map of the sovereign, lonely individual is exposed as a historical detour. This explains the weight behind the indigenous social critique, gasemoto, meaning he or she is not a human unit. That phrase is not a biological absurdity. It is a rigorous structural assessment, denoting that a specific terminal has broken its relational alignment. It has blocked the collective current and ceased to function. The empirical linguistic data points to a singular objective reality. Within this architecture, the separate autonomous ego is a byproduct of syntax. The linguistic evidence suggests a different origin for the self. You are not a solitary vessel navigating a void, but a localized manifestation of an unbroken collective field of reality. In 1637, René Descartes proposed that thinking is the primary proof of existence. This elevation of the sovereign ego became the benchmark of modern life, but as our social structures decay, it looks less like a triumph and more like a biological error. A worldview built on the premise that every person is a completely separate, self-derived atom creates a landscape of mandatory competition. Other people stop being fellow manifestations of life and become obstacles, rivals, or simply economic prey in a system that feeds on isolation. The emotional fallout of this setup is a state of systemic loneliness. By severing our psychological connection to the human collective, we inherit a crushing existential terror, wandering through a world where we have lost the network we evolved to rely on. When the collective network is dismantled, the cooperative systems that sustain our biology begin to fail. The I cannot build what the we requires, leaving the species increasingly unable to navigate the systemic crises of its own making. This state of isolation was never humanity's natural default. It was forcefully overlaid onto the global village. Western colonial administrators processed these ontologies through a translation apparatus that presumed a sovereign ego as the universal baseline. They mapped relational structures onto a Cartesian grid, hijacking the semantic architecture of the very languages they were cataloging. This translation sabotage aggressively smuggled the autonomous ego into collective worldviews. Translators forced an Indo-European grammatical framework, one requiring a separate subject to execute an action, onto systems designed to prioritize relational integration. Through lexical violence, a complex collective cosmos was flattened. These translations rewrote the blueprint of reality to validate an individualist agenda that the original languages never encoded. You can see this sabotage in the popular translation of Ubuntu as "I am because you are." This phrasing is a fabrication that still centers the independent I. It uses the very Western syntax the philosophy is designed to resist. This diagram represents the raw linguistic architecture of the root though, or ntu. In its original context, this root functions across multiple noun classes to describe animals, inanimate objects, and the cosmic order. It is a fluid placeholder for existence itself, a shared substance of beingness. When you pair that root with the class 14 prefix, you get botho, or Ubuntu. This word designates the encompassing abstract field of all beingness. It is the vast, unbroken network within which all localized existence is nested. Apply the class 1 prefix and you create motho, or Ubuntu. This identifies a singular terminal, a specific node on the grid designed to manifest the current of the larger Botho field. This architecture leaves no room for the Western illusion of the isolated origin point. It defines beingness as something you participate in, rather than something you own. You are a specific set of coordinates on a grid. You are a localized terminal expressing a unified living field. And like any coordinate, you cannot exist without the grid that defines your position. This relational architecture is embedded in ancient Hebrew cosmology as well, a system that suffered the exact same translation sabotage centuries before the colonization of Africa. Look at the structural density of this scroll to understand the Hebrew concept of echad. In Western texts, it is translated simply as the number 1. In its authentic syntax, echad designates a compound unity, a singular bound system integrated from separate interacting parts. This shared blueprint carries specific operational protocols for survival. In Sototwana, it is kamoka. In Hebrew, it is kamoka. This mechanism identifies the neighbor by the exact structural scale of the self. It routes individual agency through the collective totality, ensuring that no action is taken without accounting for the stability of the entire field. In a compound unity, protecting the other is the ultimate act of self-preservation. When you and your neighbor draw from the same substance, any damage to the network is damage to yourself. Reclaiming this unified field is an ontological insurrection. Multinational corporations and media matrices will never sponsor a movement that threatens their primary source of power. The 19th century I provided the perfect prototype for the modern consumer. Modern markets rely on this fragmentation. An isolated individual is easier to monetize than a self-sufficient community. Our loneliness is now the primary fuel for the multi-trillion-dollar spectacle. Resistance requires a decentralized insurrection of consciousness, a grassroots refusal to operate as isolated atoms. We must consciously stop feeding the machine that profits from our disconnection. Realigning with the collective field is a rescue mission. It is a social architecture built from the bottom up, guarded by everyday citizens. This brings us to the judgment, gase motho. This identifies a failure to manifest the relational field. While the individual remains biologically human, they have forfeited their standing as a valid terminal in the collective network, effectively ceasing to function as a person. As hyper-individualist structures buckle under global instability, this ancient grammar of being shifts from academic theory to survival protocol. We are reaching the limits of what a world of isolated atoms can withstand. The isolated I has reached its end. To survive, we must shed the sickness of the ego and resurrect the survival blueprint of the whole.